Hello, Herschel Mehta here of Mehta Ventures, and I'm very excited to have guest Toby Corey, of Stanford lecturer, founder of GetVirtual, as well as former head of revenue at SolarCity, as well as a PM over at Tesla. Toby has an extensive career in Silicon Valley. He's a proud Santa Cruz resident, and now he's working on making Santa Cruz great, especially with the recent COVID crisis and how to make retail businesses digital. So I'll let him introduce himself and give him some background before we start this. Thanks.
Hey, Herschel. Hey, how you doing? Thank you so much for the opportunity to meet with you and connect. Man, we have a lot of ground to cover, and the world's a very different place right now. So I'm excited to share with you my insights, my career, what I'm working on right now, I think the world is going, and any other topic you want to riff about, I'm down.
Awesome. So, my nephew, Smith Mehta, he's a freshman in Santa Cruz, and he actually joined a course you're doing under the umbrella of GetVirtual. Maybe you can talk about that. Maybe you can talk about how that came about and what you guys are working on.
Yeah. So what's interesting is you see humanity, we've seen tremendous growth and opportunity driven by innovation. And what makes our species unique and special, we are born with this infinite ability to create. No other species has that capability. So it's that we all have. And we've seen tremendous innovation from the Industrial Revolution, engine, air flight, and most recently, the invention of the internet, the ability to connect, work, play, conduct commerce. And the first wave of that hit around the mid-90s with the invention of and the rise of the internet, endless continuing to increase. And as I sit here today, and when the first it was clear to me that we are going through a social transformation of epic proportion. Unfortunately, unlike other innovations, that is in the exact opposite direction. And for those folks and businesses out there that believe that you're in for a very rude awakening. The world is changing. Just look at your life today. Look at how, you're buying goods and services. And with 70% of the economy driven by consumer spending changing, it's shaping our behavior. It's changing that. And small businesses have always been really challenged. There's not a lot of working capital. They can't go out and raise venture capital. They've got to learn to live hand to mouth. They've got to learn to deliver incredible value for their customers. Entrepreneurship is all about. They have the same characteristics as Xfinity or Google.
Yep.
Which they want. They got to price it in a way that feels that there's value in there. They're dealing with inventory, customers really well, how to reach their customers and all of that, yet they're very disadvantaged in that they're a very small operation. And of our current small businesses, 2/3 of all American employees are employed by small businesses. And small businesses percent of our GDP. Many of them, except for a very few, have been completely shut down. That expenses are still there, other than maybe some variable costs, but all the fixed costs are still there. So that their rent, they got their insurance to pay. Even those that were deemed essential, except for very few, unless you're Zoom or delivery service, the best ones have seen a 50% hit in their revenue. And those that other essential businesses have seen a 7% revenue. So they're sitting there, looking at what the world looks like. I've been in discussions with many members, and they're questioning, be able to survive this? Can I go forward? So it was clear that there was a major problem. As I thought how to solve for that problem, I just finished up my 10th year teaching entrepreneurship in the undergraduate school at Stanford. And students aren't on campus. They're not in the dorm room. They're not in the classroom. They are a very special generation. And we'll talk more about that throughout the presentation, but they grew up in how the digital world works better than any other generation. And yet these business owners that don't understand that too well, they marry those two together. Take this incredible talent of these students that understand the digital world, married with these businesses, know their value proposition, but understand the value, how to operate virtually. So we made a bold, went to Santa Cruz and said, could we create a course where students get credit and they are all businesses, and we had 80 businesses sign up. The program has been
looks like we're getting some technical difficulties here. Maybe where
we're at.
Oh, Toby, I think your internet is cutting in and out. Now it seems to be better now, but I was getting some comments on your voice. Was kind of okay. So virtual. The kind of the premise of this is that kids possess this talent to be able to bring things virtual and have a digital skill set that some of these SMBs wouldn't have. So, when we look at typical brick and mortar SMBs, what are some of the tools that you're seeing that students are bringing to the forefront? Like, where do they need to be on? Like, how do you make a business virtual? What are the steps?
Yeah. So the first thing we'll be able to learn in mass quantity. My goal is this is a worldwide program. Any college or university that wants, there's little to do. We've got an entire Google Drive set up. The entire process has been documented. But if you have to rely on customers, not a lot of people on this planet that have that ability. So we thought through what did our technology envelope need to look like. So first, there are many businesses out that have a single page that doesn't say anything or do anything. So first and foremost is help it set up online. To be where your customers are. All your customers are online today. They're ordering groceries, they're ordering other goods and services. They're all online. In addition to that, so we're working with a number of different tool sets. So in the website development area, Squarespace, Wix, incredible capability, WordPress, Weebly. So we work with a handful of HTML platforms that allow you to get a really great website in partnership with the business up and running. And then being able to extend that, there are many, many plugins. All the needs we've had and witnessed has been setting up virtual appointments. Plugins for that. Sourced a number of those, learn how to configure them, learn how to set them up. I'll give you a good example. A company like Pacific, the mom started in 1972. It's now run by her two daughters. They've had virtually zero revenue, none. It can open up. It's unclear how many people are going to be allowed in the store, what other provisions they need to set up now in order to survive. So we were able to work together to put together a virtual appointment system. We integrated that in. We added several other pages to let the customer understand the business because they really prided themselves on being like your local bookstore. They know the customer really well. And all of that's true. We're going to be living in very different times right now. They had a lot of customer data, 6,000 customer presence on Facebook. They have a presence on Instagram. So we're able to create this website, create this virtual shopper, and we work with them on the process so that appointments can be booked. They can look the customer information up ahead of time, brand bought, what kind of clothing they've bought, already pull a spread for them, and then have that set up, conduct that virtual experience with the customer. They pick the stuff they like. They may want to go to another rack, pull some more stuff, ship that off to them. So they went from 0% of revenue was in like 2 weeks' time. So that's a good example of where these businesses need to get to. Adding a lot of e-commerce services into their website as well. We're adding, in some cases, payment with Stripe, adding Stash. We have expertise in SEO, how to set that up properly. A lot of expertise in online marketing, email campaigns, social media campaigns, so that we can get the new virtual service out, expose it to additional customers, so they now have a virtual format to the business. Add attention to, didn't know the first place to look.
Well, so it's like these small businesses have no clue on how to go online because their customer base is so localized. So what ends up happening is you're running a small business, things are going great. You're bringing in something like would hit, it switches it upside down. Now, something like an initiative GetVirtual says, look, there are all these tools, specifically, and a majority of these tools, if I'm not mistaken, are just built in Silicon Valley, that allow for businesses to change the way that they operate, get a larger customer base, fulfill orders, do all of these things. Curious on how young people look at this, and how young people are able to use Spotify. Shopify. We know they're using Spotify. Are able to use Shopify and Wix, and how quickly are they able to adapt? How intuitive are these softwares? How are these kids able to teach these business owners how to adopt these? And does it end up? Is there a hurdle there? Do the kids need to learn, or is it something that they're coming in with knowledge about?
That's a really good question. So in addition to that, there's just a lot of plumbing to get right. So go online, depending what states you're selling it, is we had to find a way to deal with the different state taxes. So we found the work that we do, but we're literally able to pull that off the shelf and weave it together, integrate that without having to write one single line. To answer your question, first and foremost is that, having spent 10 years working with Generation Z. Now, granted, but I at colleges and a lot of universities. And the first thing that struck me was this operating at a really different level. And a watershed moment for me, and where it really struck me was almost 3 years ago when the Parkland shooting occurred. Mm-hmm. And I was 16-year-old high school kids that were so articulate on gun control issues, the policy around on campuses and schoolyards that was superior to any Florida congressman or any senator or House of Representative. An incredible moment. I think partly because, look, they have the mind of humanity in the palm of their hand. Yep. Like when I went to school, I'd like to do a book report.
Yep.
The Britannica Encyclopedia on the Ottoman Empire. Yep. Maybe I'd go to the library. So when their learning is at such an accelerated rate, and two, we really focus on working with entrepreneurship departments, which you're dealing with students that are intellectual. The magic of it is this generation wants to have the runway and the room to do. They don't want to first do A, then do B, then do C. It's like, give them, kind of a broad directional, and the magic of is that they get to do it themselves. And so to answer your question, there's so many online tutorials finding best practices out there. And so, yes, there's a little bit of work. Students is that they thrive in that environment because they're learning something new. They're learning a new skill. And they get to, and not only do they learn a new skill, then they get in the power of academic higher learning institutions. Yep. And it's great that you teach someone customer discovery, Steve modeling, agile development. Those are all great and really important foundational academic course, no substitute for rolling up your sleeves and getting in the field. And the other part is, like, let's face it, unless you're going to an elite Ivy League school and have offers or Accenture, which is like less than 1% of the student population out there, if you're going to get an intern at a business, you're probably going to be operating and working with the business owner. So they're like, when we work with Pacific Trading Company, when fashion works, their buying cycle, like how did that all work? Like they've got 5 buying business work, and the students got to operate at that level, that literally understand it at the very top. So they're understanding this great that they understand their business, combined with like, hey, how do we partner with you and get you virtual? And that's the magic of it. So to answer your question, there's a little bit of work, but it's very straightforward. The tools are getting better and better. They're getting easier. They work out of the box. And even a hack like me can create a decent without having to have gone to art school or have years and years of experience with these tools. They pretty much insane amount of.
Yeah, these low code solutions, it's fascinating how quickly you can get a business online. The first time I used Squarespace in 2014, and the ability to just get a website up in under a day was fascinating. And then you saw Wix also take the same mandate. And now you're seeing it even with mobile app development. I'm seeing a lot of no-code tools coming out that make it so easy for businesses to start e-commerce and things of that sort. So love that trend there. And it's interesting to see how quickly younger students would be able to pick this up. It's kind of geared toward their generation. And I would imagine that in the future, we're even going to see Excel. We're going to see things like that on your phone. Everything's going mobile. And, things will just be smaller and micro-sized, and people will be able to adapt. And then old dinosaurs like me won't be able to do it. So interesting to see kind of where these will end up. Another thing I wanted to talk to you about was higher ed. Where you're seeing higher education going, how COVID has impacted higher institutions of learning, and how you think these will change over time. Is this a new normal? Is it necessary for me to go to Stanford and stay on Stanford campus? Is it necessary for me to have that experience, to be able to help my community, to be a part of something? Or do you think that this is the new norm we're heading into?
Normal, and I don't think that we know exactly what that's going to look like. We're getting more and more clues every day as we start to see this. I was listening to Professor, I think it was Scott Kelly, who was telling me that, and I was listening to it, and I think he things to come, which is that 40 years, college tuition has gone up 1,400%. So other than what you're going to ask, what's going to be students wanting to get into Stanford and Yale and Harvard and Brown and Columbia and Princeton and Dartmouth, etc. Tier schools, I think you're going to see a massive compression. And I think these universities have been able to usually no competition. I think a lot of them are strife with politics and expect more. So I think that there is going to be a significant reckoning that will occur. And I've been witnessed it in my course at Stanford, in a classroom, in the same room with the students. And I was wondering how this was going to turn out. And to be honest with you, it exceeded my expectations. Certainly there's some adjustment, but by and large, really awesome experience. We were able to basically put our courses together. We have our ETL platform where we have amazing speakers. And I think they found it easier to be able to speak where they were. They didn't have to fly to Stanford and deal with all the logistics around that. We had Ethan Brown on, the founder of Beyond Meat, and the founder of Graham on. And we had these amazing speakers. They were able to deliver their message and their story in a really powerful way. The students got to and I just think the tools are going to get more robust. So I use the polling system in Zoom. where I put little quizzes together. I think more and more collab emerge. And I think what you're going to see is the blend of face-to-face with virtual begin to be more balanced. So, I love going to the grocery store. Down in Santa Cruz, I go to Newly store 10% of the time now. 90% I get my groceries delivered. So even when there's a vaccine done, established, we're still a ways away from it. And we're in right now is that we still got to be really careful because, one, if you don't have this disease, you don't want it. It's everything from asymptomatic to death.
Mm-hmm.
They have our close inner circle that have an underlying health condition. And the last thing you want to do is, since this can be transmitted, so that's going to just, the sort of social distancing is going to pervade beyond shelter-in-place ordinance. When you get out of that, I'm kind of like getting my groceries delivered. I'm certainly going to still go to the store.
Yeah,
I'm going to have a more virtual way that I businesses that I buy goods and services from.
I know it's insane to think that something that we like something like college, which was become a requirement for all students to take, which was getting enormous in cost. You were seeing students push back on this idea of, is higher education necessary? And then COVID comes in, kind of twists this upside down, and now the tools that we can actually educate people are only going to improve. There's no reason for there to be crazy exclusivity now, especially if things are web based, right? If I'm doing a course on Zoom and I'm doing it in a classroom with 25 students, why can't that same course now be with 2,000 students? So I'm curious if if you do believe that education is now going to kind of spread wider. These institutions that have these infrastructure to be able to bring quality individuals like a Beyond Meat founder. Why can't that be open now? What would be the requirement now in order to kind of close things up, especially in a day and age when the web's allowing for easier connection than ever?
Yeah, well, you're 100% right, and you're going to see either these universities adapt and change, or they may risk not being around. And when the internet was invented, I had the opportunity. I was at Novell. I was running $1 billion there with NetWare. I'm really dating myself now, but when I downloaded my first Netscape browser, actually Novell was the leader. But it was clear it was going to change the world. And I remember myself and a kindred spirit left. We ended up creating the world's largest web development. We worked for half the 500. And in 1997, I made a very audacious prediction. I said that inside of 10 years, Fortune 5 will be replaced. And I was almost right. I think I did the math on it. It was 48.5%.
Yep.
And so you adapted. Or you suffered the consequences. Look what happened to the media business. Like the list, we're looking at the same watershed moment here. Yep. This is a social transformation of epic proportion. I remember, meeting with corporations, CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, and they're like, "Yeah, is the internet a fad? Is it like the?" Now, again. For those that feel we're going to snap back to pre-COVID, I think you're in for a very rude awakening. So I think you're going to emerge 100% right.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I'm sure you and your team can feel the ramifications. I could almost guarantee if this course was offered in a regular school year without a COVID impact, the amount of businesses that you would be able to virtual, the amount of businesses that would want to join the program, and the efficiency at which you onboard people would be minuscule compared to what you guys are doing now. And the reason being probably would be students saying, yeah, we got to go meet with this store owner. Okay, we can only meet her after hours. It would create kind of this friction that only being online can remove, so instead of, having this archaic kind of, scheduling, waiting for somebody for something to end, things can be done now digitally at the moment when you want, on demand. It probably translated and things move quickly. Some of our startups, we're noticing that the efficiency and their ability to actually execute on things has tenfold increased, as well as with ourselves in the investment space. No longer am I traveling 3 days for a 4-hour event. That's gone now. I won't do that ever again. It doesn't make sense. I should be able to do the event digitally. And now I'm seeing the trade-off. I've seen it, right? I've seen that 3 days of me going somewhere, 4-hour presentation, doesn't make sense anymore. It's a huge waste of time. And so while, and I would love your opinion on this, I'm still a believer that there is energy being with one another. Like a lot of startups, a lot of businesses benefit from being together. Energy plays off of each other. But the reality is, I think once something is formed, once that energy and that mandate is there, you can permutate it online. There shouldn't be a divide there. I'm curious on what you think about that.
Yeah, you're 100% right. You know, the main thing that the human spirit, and we have this ability to adapt to almost anything, right? And we're seeing new norms. Like, who would have thought you could run a business? The reality is we are. You know, we're learning as we move forward, but that is going to be the new reality going forward. That as I think about, you know, why this organization is so important, the other thing that I'm interested in making sure we have a sustainable model. So I've been on nonprofits. I don't like being on them because you're always asking for money, and it's harder, you know, versus like, I'm happy to jumpstart something, and like, how can it sustain itself? So if you really think about the opportunity here, if we are the largest footprint into small businesses, hard to get to. Their cost of acquisition is typically prohibitive. Their budget, because there's no direct channel down in there, right? So if we are successful, I think we could help really level the playing for million small businesses, you know, in the United States alone that employ 2/3 of our the products and technologies that we use. You know, we're selling a lot of Squarespace licenses. We're selling a lot of Shopify licenses. I think these businesses would be more than happy to sponsor, pay a yearly fee, and then a self-sustaining model. We have these students, they're getting credit, and they're learning, and they're helping, and they're being service-oriented toward the local they live and where they go to school. That's an amazing value proposition. Once that's done, I want to be able to keep those students at least so they can help the next class, be mentors for those other students that are coming up, and have a model in there that can self-sustain itself, like innovations and how you really, really move the needle. So we got some big, ambitious plans.
That's awesome. Yeah, I see that. And what's fascinating here is, you know, we hear this buzz term called the passion economy. And when I look at these small businesses, especially in an area like Santa Cruz, you know, which has a beachy, hippie vibe, you have a lot of small businesses that are selling their passion, be it craft, be it yoga, whatever it is, that were generally about in-person, serving a small community. And as virtual and the customer start to increase, you're only going to be able to get your passion further, and more people will be able to see your passion and experience your passion. This is exciting, and you know, the future hopefully will include a lot of young people that want to be a part of their passion, that want to monetize their passion and have the ability to share their passion now. So excited to see, you know, what things like GetVirtual, for somebody who's, you know, potentially 23 right now, you know, working a job and maybe have a passion for arts. And now she can see that, hey, the local business, this is how they went online, and this is how they were able to, without a studio, without a startup cost, create an actual business and share their passion. Why can't I do that in my home? So you'll see a lot of interesting stuff pop up, and it's kind of mandates like this that make it happen. A couple last things, you know, just curious on when you were in the Valley, kind of, you know, your career was starting, you know, with Novel, and then with Solar City and Tesla in particular, you know, what was that like? What were you seeing, you know, kind of the Valley is known for pushing innovation. So I'm curious what you're seeing now, where you see this will continue to trend. What are some things that you're looking at that you're like, wow, this is phenomenal and you want to be a part of?
Let me Let me give you a little bit of a philosophical answer, a little higher level. Then I'll come back and answer your question. Because the Valley's changed, I've changed, and my perspective is this. So if one looks at the world, and to me, attract means that we're providing great opportunities for large swaths of the population. Economic system. How's government working? How's our social justice system working? And how we doing in terms of, yes, I know we can live right now is here on planet Earth. How are we doing taking care of the place that we live? I'd say that we're minus. It troubles me because I think we just have a moral responsibility to ensure that future parents did and have more opportunities that we did, and I don't think we're succeeding on that level. So on one hand, you're like, wow, like. However, a decade now working with Generation Z. I gave you that one example of that Parkland shooting. They are widely not operating at their intellectual level. I was never that articulate or had that kind of perspective when I was in high school. Now, and so they are wired differently in that. First and foremost is there's certain companies that they will work when. Oh, there's my grandson in here. Sorry about that. Hey,
Did you please? I mean, sorry about that.
thank you.
All good.
Oh no! She was on the phone. We'll come back in when she's all done.
There you go. So they first and foremost is, there's certain companies they will work for, ones they won't. When I got out of college, I'll take the first job I can get. There's certain products they will buy, certain products that they won't buy. And they are aspiring and understand values and morals at a really interesting. They care about deeply. They care about humanity deeply. How do we uplift more of the world versus I'm getting mine? Can I collect? How much wealth can I create for myself? It's an entirely different point of view. That gives me extraordinary hope and solve a lot of these problems. We're going to reinvent a number of paradigms that need to be reformatted, blown up, and restarted. So my focus is really about the best ways to do that, which is that needs to happen at the organic grassroots ground level. How do we inspire more entrepreneurship along math, science, and history, geography, and reading, right? It's like we have this insane talent of infinite creativity and society to just completely suck the life out of us because we just sort of conform. So my focus is how do we inspire more entrepreneurs, right? Broaden that out. Because I think by empowering a new generation to go start businesses, my guess is they're going to be at the same time, which is I can actually dominate my market. I can deliver extraordinary financial results. I can take care of my employees. I can take steward of the planet, and I can create great opportunities for many more people than just a very few that have benefited capitalism. But the most intriguing things I've been thinking about is like, what if we were to take the best attributes of capitalism and then combine that with what Jacinda Ardern is being budget? Like, what would that look like, right? And I give this example all the time. Like, I think what a modern 21st century company looks like, where that company, basically, their employees love working there. Go to Glassdoor, check out their reviews. They're investing for the planet. And what Vaughn did when in 1985, he decided to take 2% of his net revenue, not to fund environmental activism. That amount's now crossed $90 million. That wasn't on his balance sheet, right? So, at the same time. So I want to expand it outside of Silicon Valley, outside of Austin, outside of Boston, because all that matters is the raw material. That's the starting point. And when you can expose young students to bigger, broader, or to hear a Kevin Systrom talk, or these amazing people, that's the opportunity that we have in front of us. These old paradigms of have to be in Silicon Valley, and like, look, it's a double-edged sword. I learned a lot. I wouldn't be where I'm at today. That's I live in Santa Cruz for a reason. It's a pressure cooker. And there's a lot of the same mold that exists there that I'm looking to expand it worldwide. That's where the magic comes. That's where we get change. And that's the wave I want to be part of.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this kind of democratization of tools and opportunity. I think COVID's an accelerator. If we're looking at a silver lining of a pandemic, I 100% agree. And I couldn't agree more with your thesis on young people. The way that they can articulate their thoughts and their passion for what they do, it's beyond what I've seen. So, I think the future is bright, and I think you're right. Giving them the tools to be able to kind of succeed in these spaces and really focus on their passions and be able to pull kind of this greed and this desire to go big or fail out of the equation. It isn't necessary all the time. And while as an investor, I'm looking for companies that have that potential, the reality is that the small businesses that are the backbone of society don't need that. You use the tools, grow something that you care about, be a part of something, and you'll be happy. And I think that young people get it. They don't have these kind of Zuckerberg dreams, social network. Everybody wants to be that, billionaire. They see it a lot more holistically from my experience working with younger people as well. So I'm with you, and I truly appreciate your work, and glad that we got to spend the time talking today. And I look forward to kind of communicating more. And so please stay in touch. And anybody here, go ahead and follow Toby on LinkedIn, and you'll see some good stuff coming in the virtual program.
One final comment, Herschel, and that you see it. You've got a nephew who's a freshman. Amazing. See him literally be fearless and dig in, and his team is just watching it just blew my mind, right? But more importantly, especially you're fishing in a pond. So I want to create an ocean for you to fish in, right? And I think that's the opportunity we have in front of us. So the future looks really bright. Let's create this amazing momentum and movement, and let's go change the world.
Super. Awesome, Toby. Couldn't agree more. Thank you. Appreciate it.